Hello, everybody, and welcome to Let's Chat. We are talking with the lovely Laureen Nowlan-Card, and we are going to be talking about where do I stand legally. Now, Laureen is the Crown Prosecutor in the BC Ministry of the Attorney General and has been practicing law since 1997. Which is amazing. She also obtained her law degree in the Dalhousie University of Nova Scotia after earning her Bachelor of Arts in Sociology and Political Science at the Acadia University. She has over 23 years of practicing and prosecuting. I keep saying persecuting. What is with that today? Prosecuting criminal matters. And Laureen has worked with thousands of victims of crime, including victims of abuse. She is trained and highly experienced in trauma-informed practice. And she is both, actually she is, how can I say this? Both very knowledgeable and empathetic in what she does. And 6 years ago, Laureen decided to expand her career into life coaching for women in areas of women empowerment and public speaking. And Laureen is now the founder of Women Thriving After Trauma. It's an online community of resources which you have access to, because we're going to be having that link spread out throughout all of our little segments here. And Laureen resides in Victoria with her husband of 27 years and 2 children. So welcome, Laureen. It is great to have you back.
Thank you.
And our question today for you, Madame, in Where Do I Stand Legally is, what will happen if I report my abuser to the police?
Yeah. Always a good question. So if you report, it's always going to depend on your particular police detachment and what, how long ago this happened, things of that sort. But let me just generally tell you the process. The first step would be that you would go to the police department. They would give you a file number and that you would give a full statement, as much as you can remember. They may have you back to give another additional statement. They may audio or video record that statement, which is always very helpful because then you have it for future reference to refresh your memory if you have to go to court. I just want to say at this point that there are, depending on your community, victim services resources through most detachments that can help you kind of walk you through the process. So look into that. You can ask about it if you're at the detachment. From there, the police are going to gather evidence, and anything that you've mentioned, they'll look into that, they'll investigate. If there are other people that were witnesses to what happened or may have information, if you mention them in your statement, they'll likely talk to those people. So gathering the evidence is what their next job would be. From there, they will either lay a charge or recommend a charge. It happens in different provinces, it's a different process, but the next step is that it goes on to the Crown Prosecutor or Crown Attorney in your province, and they review all the evidence, the report from the police, any videos or anything like that that have been gathered, and they decide whether or not the evidence meets the standard of a substantial likelihood of conviction. That's the standard here in BC, and it's the same standard in most provinces, although there is some differentiation. But what they're looking for at that point is whether or not the evidence in total is sufficient to likely have an outcome of a conviction. And does it meet the public interest? In almost all abuse cases, the public interest is met because we want the public wants to prosecute crimes where someone has been victimized. But the test is whether or not there's a substantial likelihood of conviction, meaning the outcome is likely to be a conviction.
Okay, so
that's and then from there you would be looking at them being charged. Right. They may, from there, the process to get them into court is either a warrant or a summons. They may be arrested. They may be released on conditions to stay away from you and that would keep you safe and things of that sort. But From there, then you're looking at having a trial, or having them, if they plead not guilty, and if they plead guilty, then going into a sentencing. Yeah.
So what happens if this is something that, because you had mentioned earlier that they will talk to, the witnesses and things like that, and they're going to investigate. But if this happened a while ago,
Yeah,
like a while ago,
like 20 years, 30,
like
40
20
years
years,
ago.
and you want to report your abuser, and you want to say, okay, now, now that I'm older and I understand and all of this sort of stuff, how does that work? Because, the burden, or how does that work?
So how it works is that you always have the right to report a crime. So I want to start there. You may have considerations about whether or not to do this because you don't know what the outcome's going to be. And yes, that's something to think about, but nobody has a crystal ball, right?
Right.
So sometimes reporting it is the first step, and then you take the next right step and the next right step and the next right step. Like you can't see the whole picture until you start down the path. So how it works is that if evidence has been lost, for example, let's say one of your witnesses, somebody who had seen something, has passed away. If that's the case, then obviously that's a bit of a hole or lost piece of evidence in the Crown's case. But you won't know all those pieces when you start out on the path. The first step is, have I been the victim of a crime, and do I feel ready to report it?
Yeah, I think it does weigh heavy on people's minds, as what do I do, especially if it's been something that has happened a long time ago, and the burden of proof, and witnesses and things like that. So it becomes a sticky issue as to what can I do and what should I do. And that's where, with the Sacred Hearts and everybody sharing their stories, is if you can't do that, if you can't go back there and you can't prove all of this stuff, sharing your story and telling it is almost equally as therapeutic, because you're not telling your story to get back at that person. You're telling your story and saying, this is what happened to me, and now I want to help other people, because not everybody can go to the police and report it because of the time that has passed and things like that. So
there are a lot of factors that go into a decision like that. And I would encourage people to talk to a trusted friend, to talk to someone who's been through it, and understands where you're coming from. There's no one right answer to that. There's a lot of different factors that go into it.
Oh, for sure. Like I was asked myself, why didn't you charge them? Well, it was, 30, 40 years later, a good 40 years later. And I thought to myself, what would be the purpose? Because now it's my word against their word. And unless somebody's seen it happen, it's still my word against them. So I thought, well, there's no point. And even though that I know that the statute of limitations has not run out, I decided to just write about it. And now those perpetrators know that I've written about it, and they can't do anything about it, because if they do, then the spotlight is now shining on them. So in essence, I put them in their own hell. I thought this works really well. But anyway, well, thank you, Laureen, for that. And everybody, this is not to replace any legal stuff that you're doing. This is common knowledge. This is information that I want you to know about before you decide what you want to do. It's not replacing your legal counsel. If you have legal counsel, it's not telling you to, we're not telling you to go out and do anything. We're just giving you information so that you are better forewarned. Because I, for one, wanted to know, should I report this to the police? Should I charge my abusers? What should I do? So we don't know that information unless we ask for that information. And it's not willingly given, that information, because, you know, you don't want to go up to somebody and say, what do I need to do? You know, so again, this is just for your common knowledge. And if you have any questions that you would like to ask Laureen, please put them in the comments, and we will definitely get them in a segment and answer everybody's questions. They may not be the next segment, but they will be in a segment that will be titled The Question That You Have Asked. Again, thank you very much, Laureen, for your time and your expertise in this field, and I look forward to our next segments with you.
Thank you.